So let's quickly talk about where we came from to get to this point before this sell, and then I'll get into what I was seeing on this sell-off, the setup that was there. Um, and so I've anchored a volume profile from the move up on FOMC like right before, right. And so you can see we put in some balance in here after some terrible structure. It's really thin. There's nothing there, and then again pretty poor structure, but clean trend. Kind of what it looks like. You get these low volume nodes and then high volume nodes, low volume nodes, high volume nodes, and so we cluster up top. We had this little balance here, and I'm going to go ahead and zoom in on that, make it a little bit bigger. So I've drawn these white rectangles as kind of a perspective balance. First, this one was a pretty clear range of balance. And then I've added the second one. This is not balance. This is clear trend. Okay, so this doesn't need to be here, but I'm putting it there as a perspective balance because if we hold the bottom of this balance range here and then come back up, we could test it. We could just continue to balance here and here. We could pop out the bottom, liquidate, and see some more selling. And if we sort of reclaim the top of this balance, then it's not unreasonable to rotate and fill up this liquidation basically. And so this could end up being one larger balance range. So we do need to be aware of that. It's entirely possible that we have a decent size update tomorrow after that, if this is indeed a range of balance and the market is temporarily rejecting this trend. The second thing I would point out is the perfection of this trend line that we had. Like, this is kind of ridiculous. Like, it looks like it's perfectly drawn trend line, but like the thing is, if you're drawing a trend line and it's this clean, it's not. It really is not supposed to look like that. To me, that's just weak-handed buyers buy like exactly at a trend line. It's very mechanical, methodical, and that's not really what strong buyers are doing. Your big money's not like, oh well, hey, there's a trend line there. Let's buy that. So knowing that we've had weak-handed participants in the market, really, for a very long time, it's mostly been, big money is positioned. They make adjustments to those positions. A lot of these days we get, options traders. We've got, Globex has made some decent moves, and we've talked about this a number of times about how they're just generally weak-handed, especially in the zero-date expiry options. They can't take a drawdown if you're buying. If you're long an option, long a call, long a put. Many of you trade them, and you've seen like how bad you can get crushed like very quickly. And so, you have to sell a lot easier and more quickly than somebody that's just holding an ES contract would have. So there's been a lot of weak-handed participants. Weak-handed participants are subject to very large liquidations, on either side. Liquidation of shorts, to the upside, liquidation of longs to the downside, which is, very clearly what we had here today was a very mass liquidation. And to me, I'm a little bit torn here because I do still think we can hold the bottom of this balance. This looked nasty, and like why? I think there's a fair chance that honestly this was like an opportunistic short. And the thing is, a lot of these big desks, they're very opportunistic. And so if they see something and they know that there's a bunch of weak hands sitting underneath, and so they feel they can just run those stops, they'll just pull off a trade sometimes just to go ahead and do that. And so that's why when I was talking about the trade as it was setting up, I was watching it so closely, and just saying like, come on, like how do sellers not see this? Like, take advantage of this setup here, get a nice move. I said 20 points in a flash. Obviously got a lot more than that because we saw continuation, but that'll happen. So this might not be like, oh my gosh, the market's going to crash. Everybody's panic selling. It really could have just been an opportunistic large player that basically listened to me on Twitter and in the Discord and took advantage of a weak situation. So I'm going to switch over to SPX and also just kind of show the potential balance range on SPX as well. So here's SPX just on the daily. And so you can see, what if this is just a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 day balance so far, and then we get a 6th, and we just sort of chop in this range. Entirely possible. I've also said that when you end a directional move, and so we very clearly ended one time framing up here with this move by taking out the lows of yesterday, and obviously very decidedly. But when you end a given trend phase, it's very often common to see some kind of a back test, right? Like say, okay, well, are you sure that it's time to sell? So you have to weigh that in as well. Would not be surprised to see some green. Maybe we come in and we retrace half the day and we resume selling. Maybe we end up over 2 days. We come all the way up here to supply and we resume selling. We'll see how it plays out. Maybe we don't resume selling. Maybe we just go to 6,000. But just don't be surprised. So to me, I'm not like buying puts here. at the end of the day. I mean, I'll hold, with some time on them, not like next day, but I'll hold, puts with time for sure if I had a good entry. And I would actually potentially look to add to a swing position if we test higher. I would like to see us test higher and fail. That to me would be very bearish. Ultimately get into the body of this candle once we're past, the entire wick of this candle. I would fully expect we come back here to this open 46.45-ish on SPX. So that gets us basically to that, 46.99, 4,700 range on ES. So just want to point that out on both SPX and ES. You can see potential false break of this trend line that I've had on here. It's like a 5-year trend line as part of a megaphone. And then this horizontal up here, that was the SPX close for 2021. So we kind of peaked above it. That's where I said yesterday, like, hey, we erased the entire year of 2022, basically. I think that's what this horizontal is, was 2021 close. So that's that. So let's get into today then. So I had really started watching this. I mean, I was pretty bored. I took the long and open, and I came in. I said, I go ahead and close out here probably. We're thinnest of runners, up here when we were 27. And we just kind of chopped around all day. I don't usually trade a P-shaped profile within the P. I usually want to see the breakdown, and that's really the only trade I'm interested in. But you can sell the top, cover the bottom. That's fine. Just not my style, right? I'm looking for bigger trades, and like everything was so tight, volatility so low. I mean, this is like a 5-point range. That's just not very interesting to me. But I really started talking about it, right around in here. And especially saying, hey, if we do get a breakdown below 2021, I talked about this being your first target in here, and then backfilling all the way to 8. And so I started getting very interested here, actually, right? So you see a seller, he makes one last attempt, and he just gets completely and utterly lifted, right? So this leaves behind a 5-minute rebid. I'm not going to put the rectangle on there, but he leaves behind a 5-minute rebid. Immediately back tested, and then boom, we're going to go to the moon with a 3-bar up and leave behind another 5-minute rebid. This is going to be so strong. We're going to go to maybe 7,000. I don't know. But like that didn't happen. And so this is when I really started, paying attention, because this should be a very strong move. And it did not finish, right? And then you're getting upper wicks, just very weak. And that's when I sort of made fun of the buyers, saying that there was just, no thrust to the buyers. And so definitely on watch. Of course, I go to my lunch and they, do this, knife fake out. This last guy gets completely and utterly smoked. He gets squeezed. So now there's really no sellers left in the tape. And I talked about it on the P-shaped profile breakdown video on YouTube. Sometimes you'll get some trappy participants that are laying traps. And I wasn't watching closely enough here. I think I just had a call or something for work, had half of an eye on it. But sometimes these sellers that are crafty, they're selling the top here, selling the top. Sometimes they'll just pull the offer, and clearly selling here, right? Sometimes they'll just pull the offer and let the bulls take it, because what happens is, if you're a big seller, you need a lot of volume, and the easiest way sometimes to get volume is to collect stops from other shorts, right? And so if you were short anywhere in here, and then we blast, you get stopped out. And what's a stop for a short? Well, it's a buy, and he's sitting up here just eating it and selling into you, right? And then you get breakout traders too. So they say, okay, we're breaking out of this range, time to get long. He takes them, and then as you trade back through, any breakout trader has to stop out. There's no sellers in here anymore because they all got stopped out. So there's no, trapped shorts that are looking to cover. So there's really not any kind of natural demand from sellers. And so all you're left with is, weak-handed participants, slapping calls for the day. And you've got a big seller that's just going to run them over. So once this happens, it really just sets that up nicely, because of the fact that there's no sellers, no shorts stuck in the tape anymore, like anywhere. And then you've got weak-handed participants. You've got breakout traders now that are on the wrong side of the trade. And it's just a beautiful setup for a large participant to take this. And that's where, like, right here, I was like, wow, what are you guys doing? Like, take this. It's just right here. And then finally, they did. You get some liquidation there. And the question, from there is, again, like, do you see continuation below value for the day? And so it truly could have just ended here, or certainly could have ended here. But because of the nature and the weakness of the participants that were on the buy side, really for days, I mean, again, any one big seller can just take them. And he's not selling the whole way down. He's just letting them do all the work for him, right? This is just liquidation. Nobody can buy here. Nobody can stand in front of that freight train. And so this easily could have been a seller just collecting some money because he saw it, laying on the ground and stumbled over it and picked it up. So that's really what I was looking for. I love to see this move, this trap move. Again, I wasn't watching closely enough to really get a feel for if it was a trap per se. But either way, it's a false breakout with the top of a P. So there's no continuation. In the absence of continuation to the upside, you're for sure going to test the bottom of the range, at least here, right? And we kind of tried to hold. That was kind of, to me, the bottom of the range where I was saying 2021 was really the trigger. And so you can see once that dumped, they liquidate. The back test fails. That's anybody else that's trapped up here now long. They have to go ahead and sell, liquidate, and then we get through this spot. And then, again, we talked about low a day basically is going to go ahead and get retested. So those are some of the things that I was seeing, and I knew if there's any big seller paying any kind of attention, they would see the potential setup for a very large move, and could make that happen with relative ease with any kind of size. So hope that was interesting and educational for tonight. You guys have a great night.